Welcome back, Defiant Ones. Neil's here, still trying to decode the hidden messages in those bizarre cereal box photos a listener sent in.
And Bobby Socks, present and accounted for. Currently engaged in a heated debate with my cat about the merits of single-payer healthcare. He's surprisingly libertarian.
Well, Bobby Socks, while you're negotiating with Beeps, we've got a pretty significant development here at Critical Defiance. We're expanding our ranks. What started as a dynamic duo is now officially a terrific trio.
That's right, folks. Get ready for even more perspectives, more passionate arguments, and potentially more awkward family dinners to discuss on air because our new co-host is someone very near and dear to me, literally.
Ladies and gentlemen, please extend a huge Critical Defiance welcome to the newest member of our team, William Quaresimo. We call him Bill, or as Bobby Socks knows him, Dad.
Surprise! Yeah, the rumors are true. Turns out my old man has a deep interest in challenging the status quo and a surprisingly extensive knowledge of political protesting. Who knew, right?
Well, Bobby Socks, I guess the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree here. We're genuinely thrilled to have Bill join us. He's been a supportive listener from the start, and it's fantastic to bring his insights to the forefront.
Just try not to call me Pumpkin on air, Dad. We've discussed this.
Right. Professionalism is key, so, Bill, for our listeners who might be experiencing a delightful mix of surprise and curiosity right now, tell us a bit about what sparked your interest in joining Critical Defiance and what you're hoping to bring to the conversation.
Hey folks, Bill here. Proud father and now apparently podcast co-host. I've been listening to Critical Defiance from the beginning, and I appreciate their commitment to digging deep and challenging conventional wisdom. I'm excited about exploring the historical context of current political issues, because I'm old enough to do that, and maybe offering a slightly more seasoned viewpoint.
He's already bringing the dad jokes. I feel right at home.
Excellent. Well, Bill, we are truly excited to have you on board. It's going to be fascinating to see your dynamic with Bobby Socks play out on the air. Just try not to reveal any embarrassing childhood stories.
Well, he usually strikes first, but trust me, I've brought a whole arsenal ready to deploy when he does. This could actually be fun.
So, listeners, get ready for a new chapter of Critical Defiance with the addition of Bill to our team.
And Dad, welcome to the rebellion. Try not to break anything.
All right, guys. So, this week's big three. We don't have three. This week we have four.
Well, it's all right, because I'm pretty sure with Common Core math, between us having 4 this week and 2 last week, that means we had 3 each time.
Right. All right, so this week's big three is actually 4, and we're going to start from the top with the sad one. The unfortunate passing of Pope Francis on April 21st, Easter Monday, at 7:35. Pope Francis died at the age of 88 in the papal residence in Vatican City. His death was announced in a broadcast by Vatican media and a video statement at about 9:45, so about 2 hours after his death, in a little room to notify people. Francis had served as Pope, the head of the Catholic Church, since his election on the 13th of March in 2013. He was the second Pope to die in office in the 21st century after Pope John Paul II in 2005. So, yeah, it was one of those moments where the world changes around one man, which is very rare nowadays. You've got a couple presidents and a couple politicians and the Pope.
And I know, just as someone who is obviously not Christian or Catholic, Pope Francis's death actually hit me pretty hard, as he had always been someone who loved and accepted the queer community and talked with trans people and kind of was a light in that world and gave queer people hope.
I think the thing that strikes me about Francis the most is that no matter who you ask from what walk of life, most of them who know a little bit about him will come to the conclusion that he was just kind of a good guy with common sense. And I think that's what I'm going to miss about him. The cause of his death was officially registered as a stroke, followed by an irreversible cardiac arrest. So the Requiem Mass was Saturday. And, you know, the interesting thing about all this is at a certain point they actually had to close the Pope's casket because too many people were taking selfies.
My God, that's just one of those sentences that makes me ashamed to be part of the generation that I am a part of.
It's just straight up weird. Like, I don't think it's generational.
I don't know if it's generational so much as we've come to accept a lot of things that 30, 40 years ago were simply unquestionably unacceptable. They're almost common. Then they're just, no, I'm sorry, it's just a total lack of respect.
I was going to say, I feel like if that's something you wouldn't do at a loved one's funeral who had an open casket, then why do you think just because this man was known by the world doesn't mean you disrespect him.
Even if you don't like him or you don't like his faith, there's a fine line between taking a selfie and disrespecting a corpse here.
It's almost...
All right, so let's roll to the next story. I do want to do an update on what's been going on in terms of these deportations under the Alien Enemies Act that have lacked due process and raised a lot of red flags for a lot of Americans. We finally got members of our Congress moving on this, which is a good thing. And, the attention is there, but the attention isn't always a good thing. So we've been talking a lot about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. And in the interim, from last episode until now, it came out that at one point in their lives, his wife had filed for a protective order until he worked some stuff out. Now, I'm going to reiterate something here. Our job on this show is not to defend or vilify. We're here to defend his right to due process.
Yes.
But this protective order did happen, and basically, as a way to smear him, the government published a copy of it on Twitter.
Oh.
And it included his wife and children's home addresses.
Oh, my God.
So effectively, the government doxed this woman. They're still torturing this family.
That's just disgusting.
If we can't persuade them to shut up by reasoning with them, let's see if the fear of mob violence works. This is a page right out of the textbook for authoritarianism.
Oh, absolutely.
Unfortunately, Abrego Garcia and his family aren't the only ones dealing with this. In March 2025, the U.S. government deported Andrew Jose Hernandez Romero, a 31-year-old gay Venezuelan makeup artist seeking asylum, after mistakenly identifying him as a member of the criminal gang, I'm going to let Neil say this one,
Grande Aragua,
based on tattoos of crowns that are a religious tradition in his hometown of Capacho. Hernandez Romero, who fled Venezuela due to persecution over his sexual orientation and political beliefs, had no criminal record and had passed an initial asylum screening in the U.S.
So let me unpack just for a second of those tattoos. Essentially, he had a tattoo of his mother's name and a tattoo of his father's name with crowns above them. And the crowns symbolize their place in your life in his part of that culture. They don't symbolize gang membership. It's like saying everybody who has a smiley face tattoo must be part of some group. It's a little broad. So anyway, back to Bobby.
That's good to know, because deciding someone is a criminal or doesn't deserve due process based on tattoos, that's
that's already enough. But when you make it that freaking broad, it's like saying a tattoo of the word mom will get you deported.
In a new interview with 60 Minutes, Hernandez Romero's attorney, Lindsay Tushlowski, said she has grave concerns for his safety. Hernandez left his home country last year after he was targeted for being gay, as well as for his political views. According to his lawyer, he had a strong asylum case and had completed a credible fear interview, one of the first steps in applying for asylum in the U.S. In fact, the government had found that the threats against Hernandez were indeed credible. But Tushlowski said that one day he failed to show up for a court appearance related to his case. He just disappeared, she said.
Wow, I didn't realize they just disappeared this poor man while he is still going through court appearances.
He didn't show up for one, and poof, he's gone. It's not even like they showed up and knocked on the door. No, it's just poof, he's gone. That's the theme now.
I know with these deportations, and now that we have more people going to these prison camps, pictures are coming out. And I know that there have been a couple people who were able to actually identify Hernandez in these pictures from the tattoo. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be completely blunt here. It's terrifying because the pictures coming out of these prisons feel like 2025's version of if we took pictures in Auschwitz.
It's a human storage facility. It's not a prison. It's a human storage facility. You can see that by how tightly they pack them together with zero regard for health or public safety or fire safety. It's just a human storage facility. And we're paying to put innocent people there. It's insane.
And with Hernandez, not only was he seeking asylum, but this beautiful man is a makeup artist and they shaved his head. They're dehumanizing them.
Yeah, from go. They don't even let them stand up or look up when they bring them in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're actually bent over at the waist when they...
Yeah, it's brutal. It's horrible to see. You know, I'm glad the footage is out there so people can see how fucking brutal it is. And we just got to keep fighting.
Yeah.
Speaking of fighting, there's a very big thing to start fighting that's hit our radar.
Yeah. The news that Health and Human Services is putting together an autism registry and accessing Americans' private medical record raises all kinds of privacy concerns. For me, besides the obvious parallels with the Nazi registries, this is uncomfortably reminiscent of the blacklisting of the McCarthy era. Where does it go from here? And more importantly, who's next?
That really is the question, is who's next. And, you know, it's important to note, they're doing this without consent and without an opt-in or without an opt-out. They are just data mining all the records they can get their hands on and using it to create this registry, which is about as authoritarian as it gets. The NIH is doing it from both the federal and commercial database systems that are out there. And according to their director, Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, they're also working on an agreement to secure Medicare and Medicaid data.
They're building an autism registry. Mm-hmm. That's what this is.
Yeah.
That's just, as Dad mentioned, the parallel to Nazi Germany. If you know your history of how it started, they went after the mentally ill first.
No, they went after the autistic first.
Well, autistic.
Then the mentally ill.
Bhattacharya's statement that select outside researchers will be able to access and study this data, but not download the data from the registry. I want to know who's going to be selecting those outside researchers. Will it be a non-biased panel of medical experts? Or more likely a carefully screened and shielded panel of cherry-picked, well-credentialed conspiracy theorists?
Which I'm going to go with, because given this administration and what we've seen come out of guys like Bhattacharya and RFK and the people around them, that's pretty much what's coming.
I'm pretty sure that one of these people on this panel who's working with RFK to build this registry, it's somebody that RFK chose who has a background in trying to cure autism by giving hormone replacement therapy or hormone injections to autistic people.
That's better than the guys who try and do it with bleach.
All right.
I mean, but like, what world are we in where we're forcing hormone therapy on people with autism and taking it away from the people who would save from killing themselves? What are we doing?
Yeah. And, you know, Bill, you mentioned ivermectin. So this is, I'll tell you how crazy RFK is. Last year, before he was Secretary of Health and Human Services, he was suing the FDA to get the COVID vaccine taken off the market because ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine were supposedly better alternatives.
You're preaching to the choir.
What fucking planet does this been on?
This is the man in charge of our national health system. God forbid there's another pandemic.
So the only thing I'll kick out there is the nonprofits out there, many of them, but as an example, the Autism Self-Advocacy Network. They're all commenting on the vagueness of the plan, namely, what data that they're calling is going to contain. Will it have personally identifying information? Will people have the option to opt out of this collection of personally identifying information? Like, what's going on? So we're going to keep a really close eye on this one, because this is red alert shit. When you are being put on a registry to be studied without your consent, we've got a problem.
Yeah, and just anyone out there in the therapy industry, keep tabs on this. If your patients know about it, they're scared.
All right, so we've got that last one, the bonus story, and I'm going to make it short and sweet, but I think it's important enough to bring up and make it number 4 of our big 3 this week. In Milwaukee, a county circuit judge, Hannah Dugan, was arrested on the 25th by federal authorities and was charged with felony counts of obstruction for her role in helping an undocumented immigrant avoid arrest after he appeared in her courtroom. This is all per the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, which seems to have the best, closest reporting so far. Multiple Milwaukee County judges confirmed that the arrest took place at the courthouse. In other words, they didn't let her know and give her the opportunity to turn herself in. They made a spectacle of it.
Oof.
Now, this is the 3rd time in recent history that immigration agents have come to the courthouse with arrest warrants. 2 people were arrested by ICE in the hallways of the courthouse.
If you can't tame them, silence them.
This week, we're wading into that particularly sticky territory where the art we love, well, the person who made that art, might make us clutch our metaphorical pearls. Or maybe even throw the whole pearl necklace into the sea. Or, in some cases, a pit of fire in Mordor. We've all been there, right? That book that shaped your worldview, that album that you knew every lyric to, that movie that you can quote verbatim, and then, bam, the creator does or says something that makes you go, wait a minute, that's who was behind this? It throws the whole experience into a weird, uncomfortable light.
Oh man, it's like finding out your favorite band's lead singer is secretly a villain in a cheesy spy movie. Suddenly, those heartfelt lyrics feel a little suspect.
Or when the author who wrote that super progressive, inclusive novel starts tweeting things that make you question if they actually believe any of it. It's a real head scratcher.
It is. So how do we navigate this? Do we toss the art out with the problematic artist? Today we're going to try and unpack some of this by looking at a few, let's call them distinct cases. The wizarding world woes of JK Rowling, the sonic and social media storms of Kanye West, the nuanced online presence of Neil Gaiman, and the shadow that hangs over the work of Kevin Spacey. It's a bit of a roller coaster, folks, so grab your ethical barf bags.
So, our first case study, the Rowling Rift. For a generation, for my generation, JK Rowling and the world of Harry Potter was an integral part of growing up. You couldn't really go anywhere without seeing Ron, Harry, Hermione, the building of Hogwarts itself. In stores, in the library, in our classrooms. Even as someone who didn't read or see the movies in full at least, it's something that was just a part of growing up.
Kind of unavoidable.
Yeah, unavoidable. And it really was a cultural phenomenon. It brought kids together. It got kids to read, which I know for my generation was real difficult. Some of us, I don't know why, touched a book, thought we were going to light on fire. And it gave a sense of friendship and understanding.
So, Bobby, the thing that strikes me is this has been going on for a little while with JK Rowling. Yeah. She came under fire in early June of 2020. That's about when it started, for some controversial tweets she posted about the trans community. Now, the thing is, she really hasn't stopped since. She's been upping the ante as the years have passed.
Doesn't just up the ante. She seems intent on doubling down every time, no matter the blowback. almost as though it's as much about keeping the focus on her as it is upon her supposed message. Celebrity yields money, yields social media presence, yields an insatiable craving for more celebrity, more money, more presence, and so on.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And I think it's a certain form of, in my own humble opinion, it seems like a certain form of this weird narcissism that draws people to bully others in order to make themselves feel bigger or more important or more relevant or more. And she strikes me as that type. If you look at the way it's played out, her stance on all this has caused fans. It's made a lot of the stars of the Wizarding world, like Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, Rupert Grant-Eddie Redmayne, to actually speak out against her.
Speak out against her and denounce her works to the point that now she's working on that new reboot.
Yep.
To make sure that the new stars of the Wizarding world have the same views as she does.
Yeah, got to keep everybody on message.
And now, in one of the worst ways someone with money could use the power to make their views worldviews, JK Rowling helped fund the UK Supreme Court ruling that says that woman refers to biological sex at birth.
She toasted it as TERF VE Day and confirmed that she made a donation to the group behind the Supreme Court case. We did a little research. It looks like it was about 70,000 British pounds. So
and
a decent
again,
chunk of change.
Celebrity money plus social media produces a sense of entitlement. I am me. I am rich. Listen to me.
So, I got to ask, how does this play out with the fans? And I guess you would know more than we would probably there. What does this do to their relationship to Harry Potter and the universe? Because some people get really close to this stuff. They run around talking about which house they're a part of, and they have 4 tattoos. And, there's guys that play Quidditch. So what are those folks doing?
I'm not a fan personally, but I have friends and family that are fans, and I know that since this news started coming out, it hurt a lot of people who have loved and connected with this story since they were in elementary school. I know that fans of the series, who are also friends of mine and care about the trans community, have struggled with this cognitive dissonance of what do they do. Because it took a story that for them had meaning of inclusion. All of a sudden, these friends are picking apart these books and going, oh, this actually meant this. And are finding all the darker meanings that you find.
You tend to read hope into books like this.
Yeah.
I had a professor of literature who once suggested to me that every reader will have a unique interpretation of what they read, filtered through the lens of their own personal backgrounds, beliefs, and biases. However, any writer or any artist in any medium worth their salt should be capable of navigating the twists and turns of those personal interpretive lenses to push their primary message home. Whatever I may think of Ms. Rowling's attitudes towards the transgender community and by association the larger queer community, it would seem she was successful in accomplishing that. It's almost as though she were preaching DEI before most of us knew what DEI was. Maybe she was blissfully unaware of transgender issues at the time she was writing the Potter series. Perhaps she was peripherally aware of them, but decided the topic had no place in what was essentially a work of juvenile fiction. Or perhaps she was all too aware and every bit as hostile as she is today, and simply wrote around her personal animus to remain on message. In the end, I don't think it truly matters. The author delivered the art which delivered the message, a valid and valuable message despite whatever internal contradictions she may have been harboring at the time of writing. Which brings me to the larger question. Now that she's outed herself on the transgender issue and repeatedly doubled down on it, do we continue to support the artist financially? Do we keep buying the Potter books? Do we keep streaming the movies? And for me, the answer is a resounding no. For starters, I wouldn't donate to a politician who espoused these views. Why should I donate to an author? Especially when there are plenty of legal avenues, they call them libraries, to obtain these works without sending Ms. Rowling a paycheck and further enabling her hateful streak. I stopped eating at a certain chicken franchise 7 years ago, when I learned their views were antithetical to the very existence of my child. Why would I contribute to an already very comfortable author with the same destructive views? The few dollars I have will not go toward abetting the perpetuation of hatred in any of its myriad disguises.
I'm going to step back, take a moment, frame a picture of Bill on that soapbox, and raise my fist in the air in solidarity, because that pretty much nails it, man.
And I'm definitely not crying.
Me neither.
Now let's shift from the fantastical to the frankly chaotic. Kanye West, a musical visionary, undeniably influential, but also a figure who has repeatedly courted controversy with increasingly alarming anti-Semitic and other harmful statements. Kanye, now known as Ye, has exhibited a pattern of disturbing behavior over the years. Key moments include his 2018 comments about slavery being a choice, wearing a White Lives Matter shirt in 2022, and making anti-Semitic remarks that led to a suspension from social media and the loss of major business partnerships. Right now, I see him posting all sorts of horrible personal things that no one should know on the artist formerly known as Twitter. And then there was the swastika at the Super Bowl. And then the other day, he was recruiting for a black Nazi choir.
Not only was that unveiled at the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure it's like part of his merch line now, having shirts with swastikas.
Yeah, here's a guy whose behavior over the past decade plus pretty much encapsulates problematic. Starting in 2013, when he first conflates himself with Jesus and receives significantly less traction than he'd hoped for. 5 years later, he slaps a MAGA hat on his head and, surprisingly, or maybe not, gets invited to meet with the president in the Oval Office. They get together the next year, he looks around, decides he likes the digs, and he runs for president a year later. Thankfully, that endeavor ends as one might hope, but he's nothing if not persistent. 4 years later, his idol runs for office yet again, and Kanye is definitely paying attention. Now he sees a minion throwing out Nazi salutes at a rally, and the next thing you know, he's got a merch store full of swastikas, and he's building a black Nazi choir. Our boy is nothing if not resourceful.
You know, that kind of brings you to this question, the obvious question that we have to ask in this episode, which is, does artistic brilliance excuse our engagement with these kinds of views? Does it complicate our engagement with these kinds of views? Does it make it less clear? Like, we used to know that these things were bad, that they were wrong. And now when you bring them back in and start desensitizing people, what happens?
This is the question that really troubles me. If I found out today that Michelangelo was a dyed-in-the-wool racist, would the Sistine Chapel be any less breathtaking? If I discovered Beethoven was a serial killer, would the Fifth Symphony be any less resounding? I'd still be drawn to the works, but I would be profoundly uncomfortable enjoying them. And that, I suppose, is the quandary that we're all forced to reckon with, isn't it?
And with everything Kanye's doing, if we are still economically supporting him in any way, what does that say about us?
It goes to what you say in almost every episode, which is vote with your dollars.
So when it comes to the economic implications, as Niels has said, I'm always saying that we vote with our dollars. We show what we believe in and what we support with where we put our money. I personally think supporting Kanye financially in any way is just a way to basically enable him.
Yeah, pretty much.
Keep going down this rabbit hole descent. I mean, we all know he's not going to use that money to get the much-needed psychiatric help.
Probably not.
To me, it's you do vote with your dollars, and if you're giving them to a guy who's doing stuff like this, wow, that's a waste of money.
Yeah.
I think I've made my feelings pretty clear on that. Maybe we should pivot to something arguably more complex. Neil Gaiman, beloved author, generally considered one of the good guys in the nerdyverse. Gaiman is facing serious allegations from multiple women, including claims of sexual assault and human trafficking made by his former nanny, Scarlett Pavlovich. Gaiman has denied all allegations, stating he has never engaged in non-consensual sexual activity. But it adds up to nearly a dozen allegations from numerous women. The youngest alleged victim was 18, but most of the women were in their 20s when the alleged assaults occurred, while Gaiman was in his 40s or older, with one exception in which a woman claims the writer forcibly kissed her in 1986 when he was in his mid-20s. Some of the women were fans, and a few worked with him at the time of the alleged incidents. Gaiman's representatives have responded to some outlets, claiming the incidents were consensual and instances of practicing BDSM. How do these criticisms differ from some of the other allegations we've looked at in terms of severity and impact? Is there a spectrum of problematic? There may be a spectrum of problematic, but unless you can demonstrate to me a corresponding spectrum of traumatic upon the victims, then it's pretty much irrelevant. If a rose is always a rose, then an asshole is always an asshole.
Well said,
that was
Bill.
good.
If we are going to assign that spectrum, first off, we got to say that Gaiman may be, or is allegedly at the high end of that spectrum, because I've read some of these stories, and what hit me about it was in reading these stories, I kind of hit a wall where I couldn't read them anymore. They were that fucked up.
I found this disturbing.
Yeah.
Because consent is one of the biggest things in the world when you're into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And if you don't
it is.
handle that piece of it first, foremost, and thoroughly, you're not just doing it wrong, you're an asshole.
If you can't follow the first rule of consent and go any further into BDSM, that's just assault.
Yeah, pretty much. The creepy, gross kind.
Yeah.
I think the biggest difference is that we're talking about physical allegations. We're talking about he touched me as opposed to she hates me for existing, both of which are pretty horrible things.
Horrible. Yeah. There's
Different
a difference.
categories.
There's a difference in between putting your extensive wealth into hating people or harming people versus physically yourself as a person causing harm to another person.
Yeah, but we did promise the audience the spectrum this episode. Everything's on a spectrum for us.
I'll use spectrum.
Oh, that's how they get us to the Spectrum Farm.
Oh, the Spectrum Farm where they take away our drugs and give us our scythes.
They're going to be analyzing that next.
Rowling's response is basically generally, go fuck yourself. I hate trans people. We know where she sits.
No
right?
question.
But with Gaiman, what we get is this, claims that these were consensual activities, claims that, here's the thing about a lot of the claims. They published a lot of the conversations he had with some of these women.
Oh.
And the claims don't really fit the conversations he was having. So, I can understand defending your position and I can understand having your own view of the thing. But I feel like if he did do the things that they say he allegedly did, then he knew that he was wrong.
And hasn't been showing any remorse or...
No, not really.
I did just want to add to the Gaiman thing before we go to our last case study. I know that Gaiman, finding this out about him specifically, this was one of those times where I really did enjoy and look up to an artist, author, and this happened. Neil Gaiman helped introduce me to Norse mythology. He was a part of my childhood with Coraline, the book and the movie, and being on Tumblr. As, Dad said, he was one of the good guys in the nerdverse. He responded to all of us on Tumblr. It was like the internet's uncle. And this one hit hard.
And that reference to him as the internet's uncle makes me wonder, was he just out there, scanning the horizon, seeing what he could pull in?
Hunting?
Was it a hunting?
Yeah.
Thank you. Was it a nice guy persona that would draw his intended victims closer to him?
And you have to question, was it inherently predatory, or are there two sides to this person? Because both can be true. And there might be a little of this and a little of that. There might be shades of one or the other. Yeah. It murdered me. Like, he was one of the good guys, and I looked up to him, and I looked up to how he wrote. I looked up to how the man spoke. He was an amazing, amazing narrator. One of the best experiences I ever had listening to an audiobook was Norse mythology, which Bobby mentioned. And it's just so demoralizing. And I know you had a similar experience too.
Yeah, that's a good word. A high point for me at a very low point in my life. I discovered him when things weren't going quite my way, let's say. I opened one of his books, and I had never heard of the man prior to this. But the little blurb on the back looked really entrancing. So I grabbed the book, and when I say that I laughed from cover to cover, it's scarcely an exaggeration. It was hilarious. This was several hundred pages. And I would keep turning a page and getting surprised and then laughing again. And to think that the person who was capable of creating that was able of doing these things, it's such a contradiction in your mind that it's hard to reconcile.
Cognitive dissonance.
It happened to me again. It happened to me. Gaiman wasn't the first for me. He was the second. The one that happened to me before that really took me down was actually Kevin Spacey. You remember when Kevin Spacey was like the guy, won an Oscar, charismatic as all hell, pretty much owns Netflix for a while with House of Cards, and then bam, 2017, several allegations of sexual misconduct hit all at once. They started after actor Anthony Rapp alleged that Spacey, while appearing intoxicated, made sexual advances toward him in a party at 86 when Rapp was 14 and Spacey was 27.
Oh.
Spacey stated on Twitter that he didn't remember the encounter, but that he owed Rapp the sincerest apology for what would have been a deeply inappropriate drunken behavior if he had behaved as asserted. Fast forward 2020, Rapp sued Spacey for sexual assault, sexual battery, and intentional infliction of emotional distress under the Child Victims Act. In the subsequent proceedings, which were in federal court, a jury found that Spacey didn't molest Rapp and was found not liable on all counts. Rapp actually had to pay Spacey's litigation costs, about $40,000.
Oh my God.
But then more happened.
15 others then came forward alleging similar abuse, including Boston anchorwoman Heather Unruh, who alleged that Spacey sexually assaulted her son, filmmaker Tony Montana, actor Roberto Cavazos, Richard Dreyfuss' son Harry, who was 14, and 8 people who worked on House of Cards. The Guardian was contacted by a number of people who alleged that Spacey groped and behaved in an inappropriate way with young men as artistic director of the Old Vic Theater. In the wake of this, Netflix cut ties with Spacey. Spacey has denied the accusations and was found not liable in a 2022 lawsuit in New York. In a separate case in London, he was acquitted by a jury of sexual assault charges in 2023. Between 2018 and 2019, charges against him were dropped or not made due to reasons such as death, refusal to testify, and statute of limitation.
Yeah, so this is a lot. It's not like one or two. It's a lot of allegations. I mean, Lee denies all of them, but there's always that question of, there's a point at which you got to go, how many allegations do you have to go? Something's weird here.
Yeah.
And obviously, these are allegations. And in some cases, in a court of law, they've ruled in his favor. So what am I to say? But it taints my whole view of him. It really does. And it's hard for me to go back to some of my favorite films and just not be able to stomach them anymore, because the guy who's the artist at the center of the work, or at least the male lead part of the work, is him. And, he's not the first either. Bill and I talked about that not that long ago.
Spacey was not that much of a cultural touchstone for me. The one that really hit me was Cosby Blew My Mind.
Oof.
I grew up. Cosby was this young, attractive male star, one of the first black male leads in the 60s on Mission Impossible. He became, from there, he went right to the Cosby Kids and comedy. And he was one of those comics that was a family comic at a time when blue comedy was the thing. We're talking about the era of Richard Pryor and George Carlin and the 7 words you can't say on television. He managed to be hilarious without going down that road. And then, of course, America's Dad, The Cosby Show. I mean, this man was on top of it from the 60s straight through the 90s. And then all of a sudden, it was like Armageddon hit him.
Sorry, I'm gonna butt in because let me speak. I'm gonna say also that Cosby even went into the early 2000s because Cosby hit me pretty hard too. Because as a kid, I watched Little Bill. I also watched The Cosby Show.
Where's the Cosby Show, kids?
Yeah.
It
was gross, especially watching, like, I'm sorry, but I was the one with the generation for Little Bill. Like, that was made for my generation. And for me, finding out what he did, it really made me almost just want to throw up. Because what do you mean you made a whole children's show?
It's infuriating.
Not only one, he made the Cosby Kids in the 60s and early 70s.
And they reran that in syndication when I was a kid.
That was...
Yeah, and this was a guy who, to me, was like, why couldn't my dad be like this when I grew up watching
Bingo!
The Cosby Show? And then I found out this, and holy hell. So, yeah, wow. And with Cosby, you got to question, we talked about this with Gaiman, we touched on it. You got to question with Cosby, how big were the power dynamics in play with the stuff going on with him?
For him, they had to have been huge.
Yeah.
He was at the top of his game for decades.
Yeah, it's been terrifying for anybody who came forward to have that strength.
Absolutely.
And who's going to believe you? It's America's Dad on TV.
Yeah.
Look at him. Exhibit A, Monday night at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Who the hell is going to believe you? With Spacey, I mean, come on. The man really broke through playing the serial killer in 7. So it's a little creepy already. But with Cosby, I didn't see that shit coming at all.
No. Let's try and connect the dots here. Looking at these 4 very different scenarios, some common threads emerge about how we, as consumers, navigate this landscape. From boycotting to nuanced engagement, what are some of the different ways we can react?
Good question.
I would say for starters, I'm going to go back to something you mentioned earlier, Dad. Libraries. Libraries exist. We talked about the unfortunate things tied to JK Rowling and Neil Gaiman. Those are both authors. So you can get any of their works from libraries and know that you are not giving a single cent to the unfortunate monsters that created those diamonds.
Little Jimmy wants to read Harry Potter? Go get a free library card, take out the books for free, and if he's really enthralled, you can rent the movies for free.
Or you can have your kid read Percy Jackson like a good parent. Also, actually, one of the questions you asked is different ways we can react. And I think that's actually a really good and big question because we're in an era of what everybody calls cancel culture. Cancel culture in itself is a reaction to when we find out about, the horrible things that artists we like allegedly or have done. Cancel culture is a reaction, but also not really a solution. I think that when it comes to how we react to these people, I think we have to, like our podcast always says, think critically. Think for ourselves. Think, how do we feel about these allegations and how does it make us feel about the work? You
gotta think about separating the art from the artist. And if you can, more power to you. I can't. I really can't. I wish I could, but I just can't do it. And then when I'm looking at it, I have to look at where it spreads from there, the ripples in the pond.
Yeah.
So you've got the different platforms and the different institutions that distribute them and are their publishers. You got to ask who do you want to align with, you know?
A good example is, I'm pretty sure it's not every Barnes & Noble, but when things were really heating up with JK Rowling, there was a good 100 Barnes & Noble locations across the country who just refused to sell Harry Potter stuff. Or if they weren't allowed to do that as a single store, they stopped having a whole display for Harry Potter.
Yeah, they ran out of space for it.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear here, though, that none of us are advocating book burnings. Don't go out and pile up your Harry Potter books in the fire pit and light them up. That's not the message here. Separate the art from the artist. If you feel you must punish the artist, withhold your dollars.
All right. So ultimately, there's really no universal answer here, guys. We all know that. Every creator in every situation demands its own careful consideration. You guys have to think critically, we all do, about what we consume, the implications of those choices, and where we draw the lines in our lives, you know. What's your line in the sand? How do you balance your love for art with your ethical considerations? Don't go into it blind. Do what we always do. Go into it with critical thinking.
Consumption is more than a single front, too. If you really feel strongly about how a creator is presenting themselves, stop following them. The fewer followers they have, the softer their voice becomes.
Now, my personal favorite move here, if you want to be really mean, is do what I do to Netflix over Dave Chappelle.
Oh.
Cancel the service and then email them and let them know why.
Oh.
And if you were willing to give this guy a platform and I'm not willing to fund that platform, it starts making even more of a difference when they have to hear what you have to say. So don't be afraid to hit that little contact us button sometimes.
Good point.
Yeah, those are actually two very big ones that surprised me as the youngin' didn't think of in this digital era. As a trans person, when it comes to JK Rowling, the friends I have who enjoyed Harry Potter, who can look at me and say, I still like these books, but I in no way agree with what she's doing, that itself makes a big statement.
It does. It absolutely does.
And I can respect that, you know. I can respect it even more if you got your copy from the library or a thrift store or a used book place or a flea market or anywhere that doesn't pay a royalty, because that's the trick, really.
Yeah. And if it's just because, or even the basis of your, you know, Harry Potter books, you didn't feel the need to go out and buy the shiny new pack with the fancy cover or whatever.
Yes.
Nobody needs the steel book.
Yes. I bought this before she became an asshole, just like the bumper stickers on the Teslas.
Yep.
I saw one on a Tesla that said, I bought this before we knew he'd be a dictator.
I'm going to quote Bill Cosby. He once said about doing cocaine that he was told it enhances your personality. And he said, but what if you're an asshole? I had no idea how introspective that comment was when he made it.
All right, guys, and without much further ado, it's time for this week's Freedom Fumbles, and these fumbles are pretty fumbly, so let's go. All right, so I'm going to start this off with what I lovingly call Signal Gate 2 Dipshit Boogaloo, which involves our favorite Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, getting caught using Signal once more to share classified war plans with his wife and brother and personal attorney. And I would shake my head in frustration. Yeah, right? I would shake my head in frustration.
Wait,
Signal, one of the most important things that Signal does is allow your messages to self-destruct everywhere.
Yeah.
And they're doing it because they don't want to be subject to any of the records laws. They don't want these conversations to be subpoenaed later. So it's not just that they're dumb. I mean, they are. But there's also this smart little maneuver they're doing, which is saying, oh, none of this stuff is going to be subject to the Presidential Records Act later because it doesn't exist anymore.
What's going to happen if screenshots keep being taken of these?
Well, I mean, apparently all you got to do is stand within 500 feet of one of them and wear something shiny, and they'll invite you and share war plans.
What you're telling me is that we need to surround the man with drag queens.
I think that may be.
They're shiny.
I think you may have found it's like kryptonite. No, but seriously.
And this is for a man who installed what in the Pentagon?
A makeup studio.
Send the drag queens.
Now he's trying to say that it's not a makeup studio. It's a prep station. No, seriously, like you can't make this shit up. Ding, said it this week. You can't make this shit up. He needs full prep for his appearances on television.
Just admit that he watched a lot of RuPaul and wants one of those same makeup setups.
He simply misses his makeup artist from his days at Fox News and hopes to get them into the Pentagon.
And we've got another one we wanted to talk about, right, Bill?
Over in New York on Long Island, the administration in the Massapequa School District has decided that they don't want to change the name of one of their sports teams, the Massapequa Chiefs, I believe they're called. And they're being pressured by the state education department to get rid of this name.
As they should.
As they should. And they're not standing down on this one. And of course, because he is who he is, our president, you would think he'd have better things to do than focus on a remote school district, tiny little district in the wilds of Long Island.
Right. No, him and Linda McMahon come flying with, how dare you degrade these proud natives.
Oh,
yeah, you heard that right.
I shit you not.
I'm surprised the man even knew to say the word natives.
Or
I saw it today,
I'm sorry.
too.
I'm sorry, Mr. If you don't get rid of DEI, we'll pull all your funding.
He's not offending enough people.
Like, this one's so bad, he, like, the fucking Uno reverse carded being offensive?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like, I didn't even know that was possible, but he's like, you think I could be offensive? Uno reverse, 10 layers more offensive. Bro, what the fuck?
hold my beer.
Like that.
Pretty much. I think that is the American saying now. Like, I think that is us as a nation. Hold my beer. Bobby Sykes, hold my beer.
Excuse me, I'm queer. I'm going to tell you to hold my margarita.
Freedom Fumbles was fun this week, but, Big Wins was kind of fun, too.
Wins. Big wins.
The Tesla earnings report was fucking horrible.
Yeah.
So, Elon may have to leave government life and return to his businesses in order to correct the damage, is what they're saying in the headlines. And I, for one, am all for this.
I'm sorry, I thought Elon said that he didn't want to be in the government no more because people were bullying him.
Well, just goes to show actions have consequences.
All right, so our next big win, we have the full court slapdown. Bang, 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 bang. So we had 4 headlines come out within an hour of each other. Let me just read these all for you. Judge blocked part of election overhaul, including citizenship requirement. Number 1. Number 2. Judge ruled Trump admin violated a 2019 settlement in deporting a man to El Salvador. 3. Judge bars from denying federal funds to sanctuary cities that limit immigration cooperation. Judge blocks Trump push to cut funding to schools over diversity programs.
This man is not doing well.
This is the pushback that we need.
Oh, absolutely.
And these were just great to see.
He's never had a particularly good track record with the courts, but he is certainly outdoing himself these days.
So, what can we do, especially when it comes to today's topic, the art versus the artist? Use your collection. Don't go out and buy the shiny new DVD, the shiny new book set. Take what you already have and spread that to your friends. Make sure that we're doing whatever we can to not give these people more money.
Get a library card. Libraries are the ultimate archives of physical media, and they all need our support. You can get your videos and your movies there. And it's cost-free.
It's cost-free and helps your local community every time you get a library card.
Don't forget the option of thrift stores. If you find a book in a thrift store, that commission has already been paid. That royalty is gone. You aren't paying any more royalties to anybody.
Yeah, getting a library card not only helps the community, but helps the environment. Not printing more books, we're not creating more plastic, more waste. You're getting something that already exists, and we're using it.
All you social media denizens, stop following the jackass. He's got a platform, and he makes money off of it because he has followers, and advertisers will pay the amount of money to reach those eyeballs. The only thing, the advertiser doesn't care about the message. The advertiser doesn't care if you're there because you believe that person, or if you're there to argue with that person, or if you just want to monitor what the hell kind of insanity they're talking about this week. They see the numbers. And as long as those numbers are there, they will fund the jackass. When those start to dwindle, so does the volume that the jackass is able to infect us with.
Niels had also another great idea of what we can do, which is join or start a book club, movie night, or listening night. If you or your immediate friends don't have access to the physical books or physical media, it's easy nowadays to find a group of people who like these things. You can do movie nights over streaming. And you can do book clubs over Zoom.
When I was in my 20s, I used to do listening parties. We'd get together every 2 weeks. We'd pick an album or an artist, and then we'd each pick an album. We'd get a couple drinks. We'd chill out. We'd talk about what was going on. And we would, on the best equipment we could find, just listen to stuff to actually enjoy it instead of letting it go by on the car radio for once, you know?
Yeah. So there's definitely a lot we can do to make sure that we're not funneling more money into the artists that have wholeheartedly disappointed or disgusted us.
So, as we grapple with the ghosts of problematic creators hanging over the art we consume, it makes you think about how we even access that art, doesn't it? For years, it was tangible. You held the vinyl, the cassette, the DVD. You owned a physical piece of that creation.
I remember the days of carefully curating my CD collection, alphabetizing everything. It felt like a connection to the music.
And the damn artwork. It was part of the experience. I spent hours just staring at some of my album covers. Of course, I had black light posters in the room, and I was probably high as a kite. But that doesn't... Some of those album covers were virtually works of art.
Exactly. But with streaming taking over, the tangible connection we have to this stuff has largely disappeared. We're paying for access, not ownership anymore. And that shift has some pretty significant implications, not just for how we engage with art, but for the artists themselves and the longevity of their work.
It's like the Wild West of digital ownership. What happens if a platform decides to remove something? Suddenly, it's just gone.
And what about the quality? Are we sacrificing richer audio and visual experiences for the convenience of streaming?
These are the questions that have been bouncing around our heads lately. And next time on Critical Defiance, we're diving deep into the world of physical media. Is there a resurgence happening? What are the benefits and drawbacks of owning your art in a tangible form in this digital age? Join us next week as we explore the tactile side of tunes and the solid state of cinema. If you'd like to check out the show notes, sign up for our newsletter, or find out more about us, head over to criticaldefiance.com. Don't forget to add us on Spotify or your favorite podcast app. Hit the like button wherever you can and follow us on social media. You can find out where on our website or search for us like it's the Dark Ages. We really haven't gotten you all to hit that button yet. So, go hit the like button. Hit the button.
Go hit the follow button.
Yeah.
Go hit the subscribe button.
Smash it.
Hit them buttons.
Smash it.
They're
Hit
there
the
for
button.
a reason.
All right, guys. So that about wraps it up. Until next week, then, stay curious, stay critical, and stay defiant.